Over the last few years, a lot of amazing and fascinating isekai anime have been released, and with so many options to choose from, you tend to see a lot of cliches that make you feel like they're all the same. However, in today's video, we'll be talking about an original masterpiece in the genre, an anime regarded as the trailblazer of isekai, one of the best anime that has ever graced our screens. And this show is none other than Mushoku Tensei, the father of isekai. Since its release, it's remained at the top with the very best in anime. And today, we'll be discussing 5 reasons why it's just in a league of its own. The first reason why this amazing show is widely considered the best isekai out there is the fact that it actually symbolizes the true meaning of the genre. Unlike many other isekai that have come out in the last couple of years, Mushoku Tensei is a story that actually feels like the protagonist is getting a second chance at life. The anime is a redemption story at the center of all the other aspects depicted, because the reincarnation really feels like a true second chance of our protagonist, Rudy. From being a miserable man in his mid-30s who had given up on life, to being reborn as a young kid in a new fantasy world where magic exists, his life takes a very dramatic turn for the better. Although it doesn't exactly start out perfectly fine, because he's still haunted by the pain and misery from his past life, like the trauma from being bullied or being rejected by his parents, along with literally the rest of society. However, these traumas and haunting memories are what help him to develop so he can overcome them and become the new person he was given a second chance to be. In most of the isekai out there, we generally see the protagonist as a clueless, overpowered bum who gets all the ladies, and typically has no challenges to overcome. But in this truly relatable and realistic masterpiece, we get to experience all the difficulties Rudy has to endure before actually adapting to this new life he's been given. Another very detailed take on realism that we get to see in this anime is centered around some of Rudy's bad habits, so to speak. Even though he's the main character, he's not portrayed as some overly righteous hero who never makes mistakes. In fact, the story dwells on some of his shortcomings as a human being, making his new adventures and relationships that more relatable. From the start of the show, we tend to get the idea that the kid is a perv, but since he's a baby, most people expect that he would just outgrow this overly salacious behavior. But that's not the case. This guy literally spends his whole childhood being a pervy kid, and this tends to have a slightly negative effect due to its reception from the viewers. But the fact that the plot is so captivating that it makes them overlook Rudy's flaws is a testament to just how good the anime is. I mean, you can't really blame the kid for expressing true human behaviors, because he's basically a 30-year-old man with all the knowledge from his past life who's now in the body of a little kid. So it's kind of expected that he would do things a little too vulgar for his age. On top of that, basically all the characters he grows up around are just as horny as he is. His dad is constantly in the mood, his mother is the same, and even his magic tutor can't help herself. All of this just goes to show how much detail and thought was put into making the characters as human as possible, even though they tend to go overboard with their bad habits once in a while. The second reason this show has been termed the father of isekai is because of how well it uses the general isekai tropes and cliches. We've already established the fact that it's the typical example of what a reincarnation should look like. But what happens after the main character accepts this new life? Well, that's where Mushoku Tensei really shines, because it provides a very beautiful and immersive journey for our character, while still using the standard tropes we get to see in every other isekai. Like, the show uses all the best components of the genre and excels tremendously because of how perfect the implementation is. For instance, we all know that the protagonist is always meant to be overpowered one way or the other. But Mushoku Tensei doesn't just jump to the part where Rudy is the strongest. Instead, it takes a very gradual and well-planned approach, which allows viewers to basically grow with Rudy and everyone around him. It allows us to really see how he develops and how he becomes stronger, using the knowledge and training he gathered from his past and present life to progress throughout the story. All of this helps him to become less of the miserable and unfulfilled man he used to be, so he can become the better person that he was meant to be. The very original and creative use of isekai tropes in this particular show helps place it a cut above the rest, and this point is exactly what takes us to the next reason the show is considered the grandfather of isekai. When the genre was first introduced to Japanese light novels and even anime, there was a very defined idea of what would happen after the characters were reincarnated. After being reborn into the new fantasy world, the rest of the story was basically the characters searching for a way to get back home, either by completing some kind of mission or whatever they needed to do. The bottom line was that they wanted to get back to their former lives, or would eventually end up returning home. However, this idea changed a few years ago, and many people believe that Mushoku Tensei was actually the reason for it. You see, unlike previous isekai, where the characters' journeys and adventures would eventually lead to them returning home, this show actually portrayed the main character as having no interest in returning to his former life. And honestly, this turned out to be a very good thing. The thing is, Rudy was bullied and cast out by society, which led to his trauma, and ultimately caused him to become the miserable shut-in he was. The guy was literally a middle-aged man who had no dreams, ambitions, or purpose in life, and all he ever did was play video games and watch anime in his room all day. As you can imagine, that's not the kind of character any viewer would want to project themselves on, so it's pretty understandable why Rudy himself doesn't even want to return to his former world. The whole point of isekai is to have a second chance at life, and the moment he was reincarnated, he decided that he was going to be a better person than he was in his past life. It's already been established that he didn't just magically turn into a better person, and the trauma from his last life didn't just disappear either. Rudy's new challenges and experiences became the purpose of the story. Rather than looking for a way to get back to the former world, he was determined to use this golden opportunity well. And his main drive for becoming a better person is because he doesn't want to repeat the same mistakes he made before. Overall, Mushoku Tensei did an excellent job in helping to reshape the status quo of the isekai genre. And that's one of the reasons it's regarded as one of the best ever. Another reason this show is so highly rated is its attention to detail. This anime has the ability to switch up from being a classic, funny, and vibrant isekai to a very dark and really scary story in an instant. And it does this using some very small details that certainly grab the viewer's attention. A good example of this is the time when Rudy staged a fake kidnapping to teach someone a lesson. But the kidnappers turned out to be real abductors, so he had to save the girl. This sudden development ended with Rudy almost getting killed. And even though he didn't die, the headless corpse he saw lying at his feet made him realize for the first time just how real this fantasy world can be. The world portrays itself as a fun, magical place, but in that short scene, our protagonist realized how serious death could be. He realized that the new life he's working so hard to build could be taken away from him, and that his second chance could be a waste. And these fears hit hard, especially on the audience that had been following him on his journey from the start. This shocking and rude awakening goes to show just how much effort has been put into the attention to detail. And this brings us to our final point for this video: the quality of the show. A lot of you probably didn't know that Mushoku Tensei was produced by a company called Studio Bind. It's a totally new studio that was formed by a collaboration between White Fox and Eggfur. White Fox already had a lot of experience working on previous isekai projects, and honestly, they didn't disappoint in the production of Mushoku Tensei. We already have a habit of praising the visual and audio quality of nice animes as they're released, but this particular isekai really stands out in this department. The animation looks incredible, and the sound quality is just as amazing. And this is probably because the entire studio was created with the sole purpose of producing Mushoku Tensei. Everything about the anime looks and feels too good for your regular home television set. Honestly, the details and quality in every scene is something that many people have regarded as cinema-level quality. Needless to say, such a show deserves to be on the big screens for viewers to really enjoy all the beautiful and carefully produced scenes. These incredible pictures aren't just hidden in a few episodes or scenes, but they're actually spread across the entire show itself, which gives it this high-quality feel just by watching it. Overall, this isekai is peak anime, and the only way it can go from here is up, especially since it's already started on a very strong note. With that being said, that's all we have for today's video on the 5 reasons Mushoku Tensei is the father of isekai.